These are 20 times baseball blue shirts ruin America's favorite pastime.
Here we go. And Manny and Ventura are going at it on the mound. We'll take it. The ball is going to drop.
It's not uncommon for catchers to argue with umpires about balls and strikes, but catcher AJ Pierzynski was on the favorable end of a brutal call by home plate umpire Doug Eddings in the 2005 ALCS. Pierzynski swung and missed on a pitch well outside the zone for strike 3, and as you can see, is about to head back to the dugout before getting a brilliant idea to run to first base. While Angels catcher Josh Paul catches the ball near the ground, it's clear the ball doesn't touch dirt. Yet Pierzynski's dash to first seemingly confuses Eddings, who then changes his mind and calls the White Sox catcher safe at first base.
Pierzynski is going down to first. The home plate umpire has now made a call and safe, and the Angels are already off the field.
This wouldn't have been so bad if Pierzynski wasn't pulled for a pitch runner who came around to score the game-winning run. Our 19th moment involves Kansas City Royals legend George Brett. Despite being a Hall of Famer, Brett is remembered by most by his reaction to the incorrect application of a pine tar rule by umpire Tim McClellan in a mid-July game in 1983 in the top of the 9th inning. But Yankees manager Billy Martin challenged the call, claiming the pine tar on Brett's bat was past the 18-inch limit.
Now they're going to measure it across home plate.
Rather than simply removing the bat from the game, which was the rule at the time, McClellan called Brett out, leading to the incredulous reaction you're seeing right now. In a rare occasion where justice prevailed in baseball, the Royals successfully protested the result.
Well, the Yankees win. He's out. Yes, sir. Brett is out. Look at this. Brett is out. And
He's steaming mad.
And again, came from behind to win 5-4 when the game was played from the top of the 9th 1 month later. From one playing flying off the handle to an egregious application of the infield fly rule, our number 18 moment was a black mark on one of MLB's first win or go home wildcard games. Trailing 6-3 in the bottom of the 8th against the St. Louis Cardinals in the 2012 wildcard, the Atlanta Braves were gifted a golden opportunity when this shallowed outfield fly ball drops between Cardinals second baseman and outfielder. At least that's what the 50,000 Braves fans in attendance thought. Instead, veteran umpire Sam Holbrook ruled it an infield fly, putting a damper on the Braves' comeback.
And Kellogg gives the sign, the P, under protest from the Braves manager.
What followed was a 20-minute delay as Braves fans littered the field with cans and bottles.
Put out goes F6 officially. Cosmo will get credit.
It's one thing to make a bonehead call in a wildcard game, but it's even worse in the World Series. In our 17th moment, this first base umpire makes one of the worst calls in World Series history, calling Ron Gant out at first base, even though he was clearly pulled off the bag by Twins first baseman Kent Hrbek. Now, baseball has plenty of weird and intricate rules, but nowhere in the rulebook does it state you're allowed to attempt an ankle lock takedown on a player to get them off the base.
There's Hrbek. And we'll return to the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome after this message and a word from your local station.
The Twins won the game and the World Series. In our 16th moment, where MLB umpires ruin the game we love, we go to the 163rd game of the 2007 MLB season for the Colorado Rockies and the San Diego Padres. The two teams tied in the NL wildcard standing, so a one-game playoff was needed to see which team would advance to the playoffs. This ended up being one of the wildest games in MLB history, and not just because of the ending. The game went into extra innings, and the Padres took an 8-6 lead in the top of the 13th. Colorado tied the game in the bottom half of the inning, and there were still no outs when Jamie Carroll hits his fly out to right field. Matt Holliday, who drove in the tying run, tags up from third and is clearly thrown out at home by Brian Giles. But called safe?
Holliday, the throw to the plate, he is!
Holliday's hand never even touches the plate. But wait, is that Tim McClellan behind the plate? Yeah, that explains a lot. As bad as McClellan is, he doesn't hold a candle to Angel Hernandez, who is the GOAT of bad umpires. That's why he has his own section in our list, beginning at number 15. We'll start with arguably the least egregious of Hernandez's blown calls, although it has to be included considering the reaction of Philly slugger Kyle Schwarber. By this point, Schwarber and every other player in MLB, along with most fans, were well aware of Hernandez's reputation of blowing calls and strikes. His called strike 3 here is only just outside of the zone, but was the last of multiple incorrect calls made during Schwarber's plate appearances in the game.
Up and down, Kyle Schwarber thrown out after
That last moment was far from the only time Hernandez made himself the center of attention in an MLB game. Our number 14th moment shows it's not just balls and strikes that he struggles with. Nearly 25 years prior, Hernandez made an absolutely nonsensical call in a 1998 game involving the Braves and the New York Mets. Braves player Michael Tucker is clearly thrown out at home plate. Mets catcher Mike Piazza effectively blocks the play and applies the tag well before Tucker executes what looks like a sliding missile dropkick, knocking Piazza from the plate. Piazza, to his credit, held on to the ball, which should have triggered an easy out call for Hernandez. An irate Piazza said after the game, it was the most ridiculous call he has ever seen in his career.
The only question was, did Piazza hold on to the ball? But Angel Hernandez called him safe immediately.
Our number 13th moment proves that even video review can't help an inept umpire like Hernandez. In the 2013 game between the Cleveland Indians and the Oakland A's, Adam Rosales hits what appears to be a game-tying home run for Oakland. When the replay is shown, the ball clearly looks as though it hits above the yellow line on the outfield wall. But that's not how Hernandez saw it. Video replay might slow down the pace of the game and take away from the fans' experience, but at least it ensures umpires get the call right. Or not.
Let's see. No. Oh my goodness gracious. No.
Without context, our 12th moment might not even be one of Hernandez's top 100 worst calls, but it's who he ticked off that makes this one stand out. After making an obvious incorrect out call on Chicago Cubs' Ron Coomer at home plate, Hernandez later drew the ire of the Cubs' 7th inning stretch guest for this August 2001 game against the Colorado Rockies. That guest, Chicago Bears legend and former WCW wrestler Steve Mongo McMichael.
Hey, don't worry, I'll have some speaks with that home plate umpire after the game.
Look at Hernandez staring back at McMichael like a disappointed father. Classic. In our 11th moment, you might say Hernandez had his phone on silent in this game involving the Yankees and the Red Sox, because he missed several calls. Thanks to video replay, Hernandez had a remarkable 3 calls at first base overturned. That isn't easy. He can maybe be forgiven for the first 2 blown calls, but the third wasn't even close.
It's home thrown at first, not in time. I think Evaldi's...
If you're thinking MLB has addressed its Angel Hernandez problem by now, think again. He umpired just 10 games in 2023, but made 161 bad calls and had the worst rating in the league according to Umpire Auditor. From one Hernandez to another, we turn our attention to former Florida Marlins pitcher Livan Hernandez, who got the benefit of one of the largest strike zones in MLB history in the 1997 NLCS. Umpire Eric Gregg may have been the biggest Marlins fan in the stadium on this night. Just take a look at some of these called strike threes. There's missing outside, and then there's being in another area code. Braves player Chipper Jones said after the game, "I'm so damn mad, I can't even see right now." Neither could Greg. Fortunately, this was one of his last games behind the plate. If there's ever an example of why video replay was needed in the MLB, it's first base umpire Tim Welk's botch called in our 9th moment. The Rockies' third baseman here makes a great diving stab, but his throw is just a little offline. Sure, it doesn't seem too bad from the first angle, but check this out. The first baseman's foot is about 4 feet off the bag. Even Todd Helton is like, okay, I'll take that. Jerry Hairston Jr., well, he had a different reaction. Welk, meanwhile, may have been half in the bag when he made this call. Sorry, Red Sox fans, but we have to revisit a painful memory in our 8th moment, Game 4 of the 1999 ALCS against the New York Yankees. This may be the most brutal double play call in MLB history. Even watching it live, it was clear Yankees second baseman Chuck Knobloch doesn't come close to tagging Jose Offerman. The double play ended the inning. The Yankees won the series and went on to win the World Series, their 3rd in 4 seasons. Speaking of 4 seasons, first base umpire Don Denkinger could have used a good night's rest at the hotel chain before Game 6 of the 1985 World Series, because he clearly wasn't thinking straight when he called Jorge Orta safe at first in the bottom of the 9th inning. This is nowhere near as bad as some of the other calls here, but it's still an incredibly painful memory for St. Louis Cardinals fans because of the magnitude of the moment. The Royals, facing elimination, won the game and won again in Game 7 to win the World Series. Denkinger received death threats from Cards fans, but was somehow allowed to umpire in the World Series again. He was behind the plate in Game 7 of the 1991 World Series. In our 6th moment, closer Joe Nathan was gifted his 300th career save by umpire Marty Foster, who apparently just wanted to be part of history. Nathan's full count pitch to Ben Zobrist of the Tampa Bay Rays nearly hits the dirt, but is called a strike to the disgust of Zobrist and a surprise of Nathan. Can anybody read lips? And if you can read lips, what do you think Joe Madden is saying? Not to take anything away from Derek Jeter, but the Yankees legend owes one of his greatest moments to the umpiring crew in Game 1 of the 1996 ALCS. And a 12-year-old kid? Jeffrey Maier became an overnight legend in New York after he reached over the wall and caught what would have been a flyout. New York went on to win its first of 3 World Series in 4 years. Interestingly, Maier later played college baseball and even tried out for the Yankees. Even though he never played in the big leagues, he got to experience a moment some players can only dream about.
Tony Tarasco just in the game for Bobby Bonilla and right, thinks he's going to catch it, and a young fan reaches out.
Let's go all the way back to the 1975 World Series for our 4th moment. This controversial incident caused Red Sox manager Daryl Johnson to go berserk. Cincinnati Reds batter Carlton Fisk clearly makes contact with the Red Sox catcher, but Johnson doesn't call it interference. As a result, the Reds base runners are safe at each base. Cincinnati wins the game and goes on to win the World Series in 7 games.
Pittsburgh in the National League playoffs provide the winning run. Throw to second. High. By Carlton Fisk over to third.
Balls and strikes can be difficult to call, especially with some of the pitches exceeding 100 miles per hour. But it should be easy to determine if a ball is fair or foul, right? Well, that's not the case with Phil Cuzzi. The third base umpire for the 2009 ALDS game between the Minnesota Twins and the New York Yankees was caught sleeping when he ruled this ball foul in the 11th inning of a 3-3 game.
Fly ball down the left field line. That ball slicing, and it is a foul ball.
Yankees outfielder Melky Cabrera touches the ball with his glove, which should have made it fair. Oh, and the ball even lands in fair territory before bouncing out of play. That's a ground rule double. Look at how close Cuzzi is to the play. Dude is in perfect position and somehow still blows the call. Oh look, it's the Yankees once again benefiting from the umpires in our 2nd moment. New York benefited from 3 blown calls in Game 4 of the 2009 ALCS against the Los Angeles Angels. This one, with the Angels trailing 3-0 and needing outs, is the most egregious of the 3 blown calls. Eric Abar executes a perfect tag on Nick Swisher, with the second base umpire looking directly at the play. How do you miss that? Was there ever any doubt about what moment would be number 1? In 2010, Detroit Tigers pitcher Armando Galarraga was 1 out away from a perfect game, one of the rarest feats in MLB history, and seemingly achieved it when he got to first base ahead of the runner to make the force out. First base umpire Jim Joyce didn't see it that way. Look at the utter disbelief for both Galarraga and Miguel Cabrera.
I take pride in this job, and I kicked the shit out of that, and I took a perfect game away from that kid over there that worked his ass off all night.
Video replay would have corrected the call, but instead, Galarraga is just a footnote in MLB history, going 8 2/3 innings with a perfect game. To his credit, Joyce was at least remorseful after watching the replay and acknowledged his mistake. That's rare for umpires, whose lack of accountability more than anything has ruined the MLB.